Three AI companies, one government ultimatum, three completely different responses. Everyone's debating who was right, but there's something deeper going on here that nobody's talking about. And it reveals why the Pentagon's own strategy guaranteed the worst possible outcome for national security. Let me explain. When two powerful forces collide, state sovereignty versus corporate ethical autonomy, the outcome depends almost entirely on how the collision is managed, not who wins. How it's managed. There are really only a few ways these collisions resolve. And remarkably, all three played out this week in real time with three different companies. The Pentagon said, "We decide how AI serves defense." Anthropic said, "We decide what our AI can be used for." This isn't a disagreement you can split down the middle. Neither side can back down without ceasing to be what it is. The Pentagon can't say, "Actually, you're right. Private companies should set the terms of national defense." Anthropic can't say, "Actually, you're right. We'll build whatever you want." Because their entire identity, their hiring pipeline, their customer trust, their technical architecture is built around not doing that. That's why this went so viral so fast. People felt this collision before they could articulate it. Dario's refusal got 18,000 likes, the biggest Anthropic post in company history. Hegseth's response hit 2.3 million views. The whole internet was experiencing the same collision at once, and it registered as a feeling before it became an argument. Now here's where it gets fascinating. Each party chose a fundamentally different resolution pattern, and the differences are structural, not just political. Anthropic chose to maintain the tension. They refused to resolve it. And this is the part most people miss. Sometimes the tension is more valuable unresolved than resolved. Anthropic's position is that autonomous weapons and mass surveillance are irreversible. Once you build them, they generate cascading consequences that can never be undone. Surveillance infrastructure, once deployed, is never dismantled. Autonomous weapons, once normalized in foreign warfare, migrate to domestic use. History is consistent on this without a single exception. So, Anthropic chose to hold the line, not out of stubbornness, out of a recognition that premature resolution, just saying yes to make the tension go away, would be catastrophic. Some tensions need to be maintained, not resolved. OpenAI chose semantic synthesis, and on the surface it looks brilliant. Same public red lines, signed deal, everyone's happy. But look at the mechanism. They didn't negotiate the terms, they negotiated the meta level. Who interprets the terms? The report identifies at least three possible moves. First, a cloud restriction rather than a use restriction. Our servers won't host these activities is very different from you can't do these things with our models. Second, the Pentagon adjudicates compliance, not OpenAI, meaning if the Pentagon classifies a surveillance program as lawful foreign intelligence collection, OpenAI has no recourse. Third, all lawful use becomes the touchstone, meaning if existing law permits mass data fusion across every federal database, the contract permits it too. The words in the contract may be identical to what Anthropic demanded. The interpretive framework underneath them is completely different. And then there's the architectural smoking gun. This is the part that should keep you up at night. Anthropic's constitutional AI bakes safety refusals into the model at training time. Claude's resistance to autonomous weapons isn't a rule applied on top. It's part of who Claude is. You literally cannot system prompt it away in a classified environment. The safety is structural. OpenAI's safety constraints live in policy layers and fine-tuning that sit above the base model. In a classified deployment with contractual modification rights, those layers can be changed. The base model stays. The safety guardrails get swapped. The Pentagon may have understood this distinction perfectly and preferred the model whose constraints could eventually be removed. Grok, meanwhile, deployed in Pentagon classified systems before any of this started. No stated red lines, no tension engaged at all. In one sense, that's the simplest path. In another, it's the most concerning. Because when an organization suppresses productive friction externally, it resurfaces internally. 7 of 12 XAI co-founders have now departed. That's not a coincidence. But here's the real punchline of the whole story. The Pentagon had in front of it the world's leading AI safety research organization. a company that has thought more carefully about alignment, about human oversight architectures, about constitutional constraints on AI behavior than perhaps any other entity on Earth. And instead of asking, how do we integrate this expertise with our defense needs to build something neither of us could build alone, they treated it as an obstacle to remove, set a unilateral deadline, skipped any collaborative process design, escalated to punishment when they didn't get compliance. That is the least productive resolution pattern available. It gets you short-term compliance and long-term capability loss every single time. The internet generated 5 theories about why OpenAI could deal where Anthropic couldn't, and they're all illuminating. The first is a spatial distinction. OpenAI may have restricted where the model runs, not what it does. Our cloud won't host surveillance, leaves the Pentagon free to use model outputs in systems that perform surveillance, as long as the architecture keeps OpenAI's infrastructure separate. The second is about adjudication. The terms may be word for word identical. The difference is entirely in who decides whether they've been violated. Under Anthropic's version, Anthropic decides. Under OpenAI's version, the Pentagon decides. The third is an epistemic gap. OpenAI accepted that existing law already prohibits mass surveillance, so they put it in the contract. Anthropic's position is that existing law is insufficient, that AI makes previously legal data collection equivalent to mass surveillance. You can legally scrape social media, legally pull public records, legally access every Dodge database. An LLM reasoning across all of them simultaneously is mass domestic surveillance, even though each individual data source is legal. Anthropic wanted a prohibition on the AI-enabled synthesis, not just the underlying collection. OpenAI may have accepted only the latter. The fourth is architectural, the training time versus policy layer distinction I already described. And the fifth is the most revealing of all. It was never about weapons or surveillance. It was about authority. Anthropic went to the government after the Maduro incident to reassert its restrictions. The government read that as defiance. The entire standoff was about who has final say over the terms of use. Anthropic said, we do. The government said, we do. OpenAI said, you do, and got the deal. So what happens next? The OpenAI deal plus the Anthropic ban creates a new precedent, and that precedent is now colliding with everything it touches. Every AI company's boardroom is running the calculation right now. 3 senators from 3 committees entered the story within hours. Europe publicly invited Anthropic to relocate, and Trump calling Anthropic a left-wing company while ordering the ban creates a viewpoint discrimination case that legal scholars are already saying could reach the Supreme Court. Each of those collisions will generate its own consequences. We are in the very early phase of a much longer evolution. But the greatest tragedy of this week isn't the politics, it's the missed opportunity. When 2 powerful complementary capabilities collide, world-class AI safety research and legitimate national security needs, the right approach creates something neither party could build alone. Safety-aligned military AI, human oversight architectures that actually work at machine speed, surveillance frameworks with constitutional constraints baked in at the training level. That breakthrough, the one that serves both national security and democratic values, remains unrealized, not because it's impossible, because one side chose coercion over collaboration. Once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. Every time a powerful institution treats a productive tension as a problem to eliminate rather than a resource to integrate, it gets a short-term compliance win and a long-term capability loss. The atomic bomb scientists who wanted to ensure it was built safely had zero influence on Hiroshima. The telecom companies that complied with warrantless wiretapping never got that trust back. So here's your new mental model for every power struggle you'll witness in AI going forward. Don't ask who won. Ask what resolution pattern was chosen and what does it generate next. Because the winner of a negotiation isn't the party that got what it wanted today. It's the party whose approach generates the most valuable capabilities tomorrow. Right now, the Pentagon got compliance. Anthropic got trust. And nobody got the breakthrough that genuine engagement would have produced. That's the real loss. Not $200 million. Not a contract. The capability that was never born.